we are able to be more productive when we have deadlines. Like that stress.
Don't plan for who you think you should be, plan for who you are. You need to know at what point you're best able to focus. What do I already do well? What works for me?
All comes down to like getting to know yourself. Hi, welcome to The Habit Experiment. I'm Tiffany. Every week, I test expert advice on building habits and share what actually happens on social media, the wins, the fails, and all the messy in between. If you know what you should be doing, but actually doing it is the hard part, you're in the right place. How do you think, well, I think this is something that most specifically students go through. We are able to be more productive when we have deadlines, when we know something's coming, when we know I might lose my semester, So those, like that stress, it kind of drives focus and productivity and motivation. But I know in the long run, that's not healthy. How can we train ourselves, or how can we change that so that our main source of productivity is not based on panic, deadlines, and stress?
Right. So I think there's a happy medium here. I mean, we need stress to a certain degree in our lives, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be getting out of bed in the morning. So again, this comes down to knowing you. I think for some people, you can see a deadline and people can work, a little chunk every day ahead of time and get it done. For some people, planning out like that does not engage their brain enough. There's not enough stress there. And all that happens is you don't do the thing you say you're going to do, and you get frustrated and you get down on yourself, and it just becomes this vicious cycle, right? So we want to work with the stress a little bit. So I would say, don't plan in a way, maybe the best way of saying this is don't plan for who you think you should be, plan for who you are. So if that means, I know that I start to feel that stress maybe 4 days out from something, that will be the time that I'm more likely to get my brain to engage in the task. It's not the last minute panic, but I'm able to get the thing done. So again, it's kind of working with the brain. I think conventional wisdom would say, look at the due date, plan it out 2 weeks in advance. My lived professional experience is that doesn't often work.
Okay, so you would say it's best to plan day by day?
Well, again, you want to know what's coming up, right? So let's say you have a final. Again, you want to be doing the work and reviewing over the semester. You do not want to be leaving and learning all this content till the last minute. So your best bet is over the course of the semester to have engaged in the course, to have reviewed the work a little bit. But when it comes to the actual final studying, you need to know at what point you're best able to focus and lock in. Because I think planning to do things when you know you're not going to be able to do them doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's like what you said, like plan for the person that you are now and be realistic. And don't plan for the person that you think you could be.
Yeah, I think who you should be, because I think there's a lot of shoulds out there. I feel like I should be doing X, Y, and Z. And then when you don't do those things, you feel bad about yourself. And I think that's a lot of where that question is hard to answer, because I think that's the crux of coaching. It's really working with an individual person, helping them understand how their brain works, what their life looks like, and building all of those strategies in.
Okay. Now that we're talking about kind of identity and how you are, who you are, how your brain works, I remember I saw on your website that you talk a lot about aligning goals with values and strengths, like kind of knowing who you are and then aligning those goals with who you are. How does this help habits stick? How does this help the habits that we build stay longer?
So I think with values, they represent really the core of who you are. So if you're creating a habit that aligns with your values, the intrinsic or internal motivation is stronger. And we know that it is the best form of motivation is internal motivation, right? So when I plan to do something that, really aligns with the things that are important to me, I'm more likely to do that thing. Being able to put some words around strengths or understand what your strengths are really kind of gives you a way of how you're going to implement the habit. Like, so what do I already do well? What works for me? When I'm at my best, what's happening? You're going to take that information and you're going to apply it to the new thing that you want to do. And so I think it makes it meaningful and it makes it easier because we're working from a foundation we've already built.
Okay, can you give like a small example of how that looks like?
Yeah. So let's say, okay, I'll give you more of a personal example. So some of my values are learning, humor, health and wellness, family, that type of thing. Strengths for me would be, and this comes actually from the VIA Strength Survey, which you can do online. It's free. I do it with all my clients. Kindness, humor, teamwork. These were sort of things that were the top of my strengths. I also know perseverance is a strength for me. Creativity is a strength for me. And so when I think about how I want to move forward in my life, or perhaps what I want to offer in my coaching practice, I'm going to choose something that allows me to be creative. I know I'm going to persevere through the struggles of it. And so I actually did create a workshop that's really the intersection of wellness and neurodiversity last fall. And so that really aligns with my interests in learning and health and leans into my strengths of persevering and teaching and all of that. But if I had tried to do something that was sort of way out of the scope of anything I wanted to do, I would not have done it. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah, I kind of understand this because, I'm a young adult. So for young adults, it's like you're growing up and suddenly you feel like there's so many people telling you what you should be doing at this point in your life, like, oh, you should be searching for a job, you should be, following your dreams, you should be traveling, but also settling down, like all these different things. So it's like, yeah, it all comes down to like getting to know yourself and what's important to you, right?
Exactly. I think there is a lot of noise out there, and there's, like I said, there's a lot of shoulds. You see your peers and you think, oh, I should be doing that, or perhaps you have parents suggesting you do certain things. With regard to values, one quick thing I will say about that is do not look at a values list and decide what are my values on this list, because you're going to pull off all the words. I think one interesting way is go into your space where you live and look at the things around you. What are the pictures on the wall? What are the books that are out? What's the music? What's going on in that space? Because that's going to be a reflection of things that are important to you.
Wow. Okay. Like seeing how your life is and your surroundings.
Yeah.
How would you recommend young adults to build discipline without relying on motivation? I know you said that intrinsic motivation is much more important than the external one. For example, like deadlines and stuff. How can we build discipline and be consistent without relying on motivation? Is that possible?
Okay, so one caveat I want to say about internal motivation is if you want to build, like we were talking about building habits and doing things, yes, it's important. I understand you may not be internally motivated to study for calculus or whatever it is that you're doing. Sometimes you take a course and you're not super interested in it and you don't have internal motivation. So I understand that. When you use the word discipline, I would ask, like, what does that mean for you? Because when I think of the word discipline, I think of inflexibility. I think I'm doing it or I'm not doing it. It's right or wrong. It really leans into black and white thinking. And I don't know that it's necessarily helpful to believe you are disciplined or you're not. And like, if you're not disciplined, what does that mean? Like, what are you telling yourself? Right? So, again, it can be extremely unmotivating if you're trying to be what you think should be disciplined and you're not being that thing, and then you don't feel motivated. And then when we think about motivation, I think a way of framing that is, I don't necessarily know that students lack motivation. If you're on social media instead of doing your homework, you're just more motivated to be on social media. It's giving you something. And so understanding, what is this giving me right now? And, sort of figuring that piece out so you can just shift what you're doing to the task that you least want to do. And so, again, it's really about building an intention and strategies, kind of going back to some of the focus apps and the Pomodoro, and being kind to yourself, because yes, some days you're going to be more focused and attentive than others. That doesn't mean you're not a disciplined person, and whatever that means to you.
So for our habit experiment this week, Joanna decided to coach me through one habit I want to implement, and we will build a plan around it, how to do it, how to make it realistic and achievable. And yeah, so basically we kind of talked a little bit about this before, and I told you that I wanted to work on sleeping earlier. So just for you to have like an idea, I currently sleep at 1 a.m. Like no matter what I do, it's always like at 11 I feel the need to be super productive before sleeping, and then I end up sleeping at 1 a.m. That's the earliest. Don't ask me what time I slept yesterday. So I want to start sleeping at 10:30, 11, but I know like I tried doing the jump. It doesn't work. So like, yeah, maybe you can like give me some tips, techniques. How can I like start implementing it?
So first of all, let me ask you, what's important to you about going to bed at 10:30, 11?
I would say when I sleep early, the few times that I've done it, the next day I'm able to wake up earlier and start my day.
Okay.
On the contrary, when I sleep late, I wake up around like super late, like after 10, and then it just like kind of messes up with my schedule. Like I feel like I start the day and then it's over. So I want to make the next day as productive as possible and feel energized, not feel like a zombie.
Okay, so earlier bedtime means you're more productive. You don't feel like a zombie. On the days when you were able to go to bed earlier, what was different? What was going on those days?
You mean like before sleeping? What did
And
I
you,
do
you said there were a
before,
few
or-
times that you could get to bed at 10, 10:30. So in those days, what was different for you? How did you get to bed on time?
I was very motivated. That's like
Okay.
on the day that I decided to do it, I was super motivated. So that's why I was able to like fulfill that and like do that. But also, it's like on the next day when I have to wake up like at 5 a.m. To go to class the next day and commute and everything. Like I know that if I don't sleep earlier, next day I won't be able to function at all. So
Fair.
like those are the
Right. So strong motivation because you had to get up early. And that motivation was getting you into bed. So that kind of leads to the question of, how many nights out of 7 do you want to go to bed early? Because I'm going to guess that if you really like that 11 o'clock time, on a Friday and Saturday night, trying to get to bed at 10:30, when you don't have to get up the next morning, it's going to be a whole lot harder. So let's define, like, what is the habit you want to build?
I would say Yeah, maybe we can exclude weekends.
Okay.
Maybe Friday nights as well. So like from Monday to Thursday.
Okay. Do you want to include Sunday for getting up Monday?
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
Okay. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So 5 days of the week.
Yeah.
How many days of the week right now are you getting to bed at 10:30?
None.
Okay, so we've got a big jump here. We've got, first of all, you're not going to bed till 1 o'clock and you want to go to bed at 10:30. And right now you're not doing any days. You're also experiencing what we call bedtime procrastivity, which means that at about 11 o'clock, you're like, hello, I'm going to clean my room. I'm going to do all of the things.
It has
now.
a name. Finally.
It does have a name.
Wow.
It
Okay.
has a name.
Okay.
So you're kind of working against that a little bit. So I would suggest that you be really intentional. Like, I mean, I think we can probably start by using some of that motivation you talked about, because it's a shiny new habit. It's going to be easier to implement on the first couple of nights. It's going to be much harder to keep it going. So I would encourage you to say, well, I'd like to, I'd like to do it every night, but really, like, what does a successful week look like to me? If I got to bed at 10:30 2 nights, or between, say, 10 and 11 2 nights in the week, would that be a success for me this week? Because I'm just starting. So what does that look like, first of all? So maybe I would ask you that. Like, how would you define success?
I would say for starting, 2 nights is a good way to start, especially because there's one day that I have class and I have to wake up at 5 literally this semester.
Okay.
So I do have to have one night definitely that I sleep at that time. But I also want to like kind of train myself to do it even if I don't need to.
Okay. So if you do that night that you have to get up early, and you do the next day, because you're probably going to be tired because you got up at 5 o'clock, those are probably 2 easier days to start with, and to start creating some habits around your bedtime routine. So we would want to, we could unpack this a whole lot more, but we don't have time. So I would encourage you to make an intention. And we talked a little bit before about I don't know if James Clear coined the phrase implementation intentions in his book, Atomic Habits. It's an intention anyway. So what day of the week is it that you have to get up early?
Thursday.
So Wednesday night, you're going to be wanting to go to bed. So your intention would be, on Wednesday night, I will start getting ready for bed at 10 o'clock. My light will be out by 11 p.m. If I haven't started by 10 o'clock, I'm going to set an alarm for 10:20, so then I can start then. So you kind of give yourself a backup plan. So you want to create a very specific intention, plan A, plan B.
Okay, how can we write that intention right now? Like
Sure.
how would that look
So
like?
you tell me what is your intention on Wednesday night? What time are you wanting to go to bed?
Hopefully 10:30.
Okay. So type it out on Wednesday night. Okay, I'm going to go to bed at 10:30. And then maybe you can set an alarm on your phone for 10:30, so that if my alarm goes off at 10:30 and I haven't started getting ready for bed, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and try and get in bed for 11:15.
I had this thing where I would put an alarm every single day at 9 p.m.
And then you ignore it?
And I would ignore it for the longest time, like for one whole year. And I just got used to listening to that alarm and stopping it. And I think that made things worse than it actually made them better.
Change up your alarm to have it different from your other alarms. Do something so that it captures your attention. So what I will say is that, if you and I were in a coaching session together, we would actually talk about specifically what the bedtime routine looks like and how long it takes, So am I going to have a shower? Am I going to clean my teeth? Am I going to read for a while? What are the things am I going to make my lunch, pull out my clothes for the next day? What are all the things I'm going to do? as part of my bedtime routine, and what time do I need to start that? So you want to kind of start working back. If you want to be in bed at 10:30, like at what time do you need to do the other things, working backwards? So we don't have the luxury of time to unpack all of that today, but I think just creating an intention, and then I would share it with somebody. Tell a friend, tell someone else, this is what I'm going to do on these days. Ask me tomorrow if I did it.
Like having an accountability partner.
Yeah. And then on the days that you do it, take a moment to actually think about what went well, what felt good about following through on your habit. Write a little note to yourself, because you want to remind yourself why you're doing this. I was able to make it through the day, getting up for my 5 o'clock class. I felt productive. My mental health felt so much better because I felt productive. These are the reasons why you want to keep doing this, because you're going to want to build on this over time, right? And you want to be able to do it on the days where you don't necessarily have exhaustion or the stress of having to get up the next day working for you. So you really want to tap into all the reasons why this helps you, why it's important to you, and all the things you did to set yourself up for success, to be able to repeat those things. And remember, you're going to fall off the wagon. There will be a night where you don't do it and you're like, oh, darn, why didn't I go to bed? And again, just to give yourself that grace.
If we wanted to create like a plan, like plan B, as you mentioned before, in case that happens, in case there's a day that I am not able to sleep at 10:30, how can we create that plan B? Like, what would be a realistic plan B?
So a plan B it's really the setting of the alarm. If the alarm goes off at 10:30, and you can do a voice note alarm. So you can be a recording of yourself saying, hey, Tiffany, have you gone to bed yet? That'll catch your attention.
Imagine.
Right? And then, that's your plan B. And then stop doing whatever it is you're doing instead of going to bed, and start going to bed.
So if I wanted to work on maybe on my separate time, like a routine before bed, how would you recommend that routine to look like?
So first of all, I think one thing which we didn't talk about, because we jumped straight into intentions, because I know we wanted to capture this part, your jump from 1 a.m. to 10:30 is like changing several time zones. It's like jet lag. So I don't even know if you can sleep at 10:30. I mean, that's a question that you will know. So really, the way you would start this is going back by about a half an hour every night. If you can't sleep at 10:30, great, do it at 10:30. But if you're used to going to bed at 1 a.m., I would every night do a half an hour earlier, and that would actually be your starting point for this.
I see.
To try and reset your clock a little bit.
Okay.
And
like
then
instead of 10:30 directly,
Yeah.
I would start 12:30, 12.
Exactly. Each night, go a little bit earlier. And then I would say, we're getting into a whole other conversation on sleep here, but really on the weekends, you don't want to be going to bed or getting up an hour later or earlier. You don't want the difference to be more than an hour on the weekends, which I know for students is awful. I'm like, I can do it now because I'm old, but it's hard. It's hard. So if you get up at 7 a.m. Monday to Friday and you sleep till 12 on the weekend, again, that's a 5-hour time difference. That's here to the UK. That's the time change. You're asking your body to navigate. So if you do not sleep, keep it within that hour. But again, a whole other conversation.
It's not only important the time that I sleep, but the time that I wake up also impacts.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to wake up at 7:30 during the weekdays, on the weekends, you would recommend me to wake up at least at 8:30?
I would say 8:30-ish. I would say not noon.
Okay.
Again,
that's going to be challenging.
It is going to be 100%. And trust me, I did not do that. But
okay.
I think that if you have difficulty sleeping, it is something to keep in mind. If you don't have any problem sleeping, sleep all day long. I mean, it's
Okay. So, thank you so much for the coaching.
You're welcome.
I will be sharing my journey on Instagram during the following week. I'll try to sleep earlier. You can tag along if you have the problem of sleeping late like I do. You can tag along with me, or you can adjust the challenge based on the habit that you want to implement. I will be sharing a resource with you with questions that Joanna just used to coach me. And that can be like a starting point for you to create your own habit plan, like we just did with mine. And yeah, if listeners want to contact you or they want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Yeah. So you can reach out to me through my website, which is jhdcoaching.com. So my initials. I do free consultations with anybody. Sometimes people just reach out and want to chat. So please feel free to reach out there. You can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find me on Instagram at joecoaching03.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Such a good conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about all things habits with students.
Yay. All right, let's put this into action together this week. Follow the Habit Experiment Pod on Instagram to join me in trying this out. I'll be documenting the whole process, plus sharing free resources to help you out. And if you want more of this, make sure to follow the show. See you next week.